Julia. In our last video, I showed how I created this art quilt, fabric collage quilt. And in this video, I want to share with you an easy way to bind it. Now, in this particular binding, you do sew it from the front, and then you turn it and you hand stitch it down. So it's one of those things where you just want to put on a good movie at night and then sit down and just enjoy the process of the hand stitching. At the end of this video, I do go into a little bit of the hand stitching. However, I'm left-handed, and I know 90% of you are going to look at it like, what? And so I'm going to link a video down below of it's Jenny of the Missouri Quilt Company, and she does a really wonderful job of showing this hand of how you can do that blind stitch on the back side. So if you're a beginner quilter, or if you've just struggled with knowing how long to cut your binding and how to do the corners, I hope this video helps you out. Let's get started. This particular method of binding works for any size quilt. Now, this is just a wall hanging size quilt. First, you want to do the measuring, and mine measures 20 inches across and 24 inches on each of the sides. And you want to add up those measurements and add 12 inches. And so for mine, I'm going to need 100 inches. So 20 plus 20 plus 24 plus 24 plus 12. I'm cutting my binding strips at 2.5 inches in the width, but this is optional. You can cut yours to 2 inches, or you can make a wider binding if you want. You do want to make an L right sides together to join these. And you're going to be joining these by stitching diagonally across. Now notice how a little bit of that under binding shows on the top and the sides. This helps line everything up. Go ahead, and I did mark mine as well, and then just stitched right on that marking. Did my trimming, and now it's to ironing these flat and open. On to the next one. My binding is several different pieces of the background print, and so I have shorter strips. It's more of a collage looking binding as well as the quilt. Again, drew my line, doing some pinning here, and I can still see a little bit of that under piece showing. Once all my pieces are joined, it's on to ironing them just by folding wrong sides together. So I do have a length now that is 100 inches, approximately 100 inches. And now for attaching the binding. This is a really easy way to do corners. You do want to leave a tail of approximately 6 inches. I put one pin in, and the rest of the binding I don't pin. I just put that one beginning pin in. I'm at my sewing machine right at that pin mark. Now remember, I'm leaving like a 10 inch, or excuse me, about a 6-inch tail. I'm taking 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and my raw edges are all matching. I do reinforce that seam I did go back and forth there at the beginning. And I do have orange thread on so that you can see this a little bit better. You stop 1/4 of an inch away from the corner, pivot your machine, and just sew diagonally right off the edge. Lift it up, and then just fold it back against that diagonal, and then fold it over and match that folded edge right to the top of your quilt. I'm going to go forwards and back, and then again taking that 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'll show you again on this next corner. Stop 1/4 of an inch away, pivot your machine, go right off the edge, lift it up, finger press it back against that diagonal, and then just fold that over and line everything up on the top. Once again, get that underneath your presser foot, forwards and back, and you're off again on the next side. One last corner here I'm going to show you. 1/4 inch away. Pivot all the way off. Fold it back. And then get everything to match up and even with the top, and we're off again. And this is my last corner. And now I'm going to be stopping so that I have another 6-inch tail. This is that last side. I'm going to stop and I'm going to reverse to secure my stitch again, and I'm going to leave an opening of about 12 inches. And now it's on to trimming the tails. The first thing you want to do is lay that bottom tail down, and you do not cut the bottom tail, you cut the top tail. You want to take your measuring and you want it to overlap the same width as your binding, and my binding was 2.5 inches, and so I want to cut my top tail so it's going to be overlapping 2.5 inches. And I'm just going to cut that right on that mark. So now I've got the tail that's overlapping 2.5 inches, and it just so happened that I cut it right on where I had another diagonal mitered corner, but it doesn't matter. This is going to work out just fine. Put those together, right angles, and I'm going to be stitching this diagonally, just like we did when we combined our strips. Going to mark it so I can see it better. I do have to fold the quilt up slightly just to get it. It's a little bit awkward to get it under the sewing machine, but it's not bad. Just by folding your quilt a little bit, you can get it under there easily. And now I have another seam that I need to trim. I'm going to trim it at 1/4 inch, and we'll be ironing the seam open, just like we did the rest of the binding. And now I have the perfectly matched binding that fits that opening. Really takes the guesswork out of how much binding you need to cut. And now it's to finishing it off by just sewing that opening. And it's all sewn and everything is complete, and it's ready to turn it over. The corners are mitered so well. It's just an easy method to do a corner. And it's onto my left-handed sewing. Just going to show you a little bit of this. That muslin piece that you see there is the sleeve for the dowel to hang this. I do love using the clips. Just keeps everything really nice. You actually sew in the fold, and then you just take one little stitch onto your backing, and again putting your needle in and I'm in the fold right now, and I'm coming out about half an inch away, and then just doing a tiny stitch in the backing, and then again going back up into the binding right in the fold. So most of your stitch is hidden. It's actually in the fold of that binding, and then taking another little stitch. And going in again. Thanks everybody. I hope this has taken some of the guesswork out of doing the binding. Hope you have a chance to create this week. Bye for now.